Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of A Beard, a Baby, and 3 Dogs. Episode 2 is going to consist of doing more foundation behaviors. Episode 1 was sit down and stay. Episode 2 is going to be hand targeting, leave it, and go to your mat. Let's jump into hand targeting. Hand targeting means getting your dog to target your hand, in this case with his nose or his muzzle. So this is useful for a lot of different things, like come when called, simply just moving a dog from space, getting him onto something, getting him off of something. So it's very, very useful. I'm going to be using this as part of my A Beard, a Baby, and 3 Dogs video series, because getting a dog to move out of your way when you're carrying a baby, when you just need them to get out of your way in general, this is a great tool. So to teach this, I'm going to start off with a piece of food, and you're going to have it tucked between your fingers. So I have it right there, and I have some in my other hand as well. I'm going to present my hand out, and when he touches it, I'm going to tell him good boy, and I'm going to give him a piece of food from my other hand. So I still have this one here. If your dog does get this piece of food, it's not the end of the world. Good boy. Not giving any verbal cue yet. Good boy. Just telling him good boy as soon as he touches my hand. Good boy. And I'm feeding from my other hand. So this is going pretty quickly because I have my hands loaded. So good boy, and then treat. Good boy, and then treat. If your dog is doing it with that type of speed, then you're ready to move on to the next step, which is no food in your hand. So nothing in this hand. So I'm going to present my hand, good boy, and reward. Present my hand, good boy, and reward. Present my hand, good boy, and reward. Basically, your dog is going to figure out that if I touch this hand, good boy, I get a treat. So it's pretty simple once they catch on. Still haven't used any verbal cues yet, because I like to get that hand signal in place. If this happens, wait him out. Once he notices my actual hand is out, good boy, then he'll do it. Be very patient when you're teaching this. If you keep prompting and keep prompting, come on, do it, come on, do it. Just be patient, get your hand there, good boy. I'm going to introduce the verbal cue now, so I'm going to call this touch, as in touch my hand. So I like to say it before I get my hand out, so it looks something like this. Touch. Good boy. Touch. Good boy. Touch. Good boy. So if I wanted to, start doing my other hand now, I can. Be touch. Good boy. I'm still going to reward. The moment that the rewards stop, especially the moment they stop completely, is the moment the behavior stops. So if you try to do this for a little while and then you stop treating your dog, you're done. Your dog will stop doing the behavior. So what I can also do now is, so I can say, V, stay. Now I can ask him to touch. Go back. Go back. Sit. Sit. Stay. So I can ask him to touch, to come to me. Touch. Good boy. So it's great for come when called. It's great for if I had, say he's in my way right now. Touch. Good boy. I can get him out of my way, and now I can continue the way that I want it to go. So it's useful in a lot of ways. So first step was a piece of food in your hand. Let him just investigate that. Once he does, reward him with another piece of food. When that's going really smoothly and he's really catching on that something good is in that hand, you're ready to fade that and present an empty hand. Good boy. Once he touches it, the moment he does, tell him, good boy, treat him for that. When that's going really smoothly and your dog is just doing really, really well, then you're ready to add in the verbal cue. Touch, good boy, and treat. Follow that order, follow that order of events, and your dog will be able to touch your hand on a verbal cue. Now we're going to take a look at how to teach your dog to go to its mat. This is going to be very handy for a lot of different behaviors, like someone knocks on your door, or if you have a baby, which is what this is going to be shot for primarily here. So very first step, you want to have a food lure, so a piece of food in your hand. Guide your dog onto your mat or your bed. I like to guide him into a down, and I give a couple of treats for that. So guide him on, get him into a down, treat him a few times. Okay. Invite him off, I'm going to do that a few times. Piece of food in my hand, I'm going to use it as a food lure, so I'm going to guide him on, guide him down, give him a couple pieces for it. I want him to realize that being on that mat equals a lot of good stuff. Okay. So I'm going to do this about 5 times. If they're all really smooth, I'm going to do it about 5 times. Or if it's really sloppy, I'll do it more. I want to get it just really fluent so that my dog just kind of is going right on. Okay. So piece of food in my hand, into a down, and reward. Once again, jackpot him a few times. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this to a hand signal. So I'm going to have no food in my hand, but I'm going to follow the same motion. So, good boy. Good boy. A little jackpot for this, especially when you get to the hand signal part. Pay them for it. We want them to know that that hand signal still pays. Okay, invite them off. Same thing. Okay. Just one after another. Get a rhythm going. Good boy. Okay. So now that he's doing that really well, I'm going to decrease my hand signal. So I'm not going to give such a large hand signal, if you will. So, good boy. Now, obviously, this is a dog that's had some serious training, so he should do this a lot faster than yours. You're going to have to spend a lot more time in each step, most likely, but use this as a basis for your steps. This is just a quick visual for you on the steps that you need to practice. Okay. Same thing, small hand signal. Boy. Okay. Good boy. Okay. So now that he's doing that well, I'm going to introduce the verbal cue for this, and I'm going to do it just before I do the small hand signal. I'm going to call it go to your bed. He actually will do this with the word place. That's what I trained him on before, but I'm going to switch it up, so maybe he'll struggle a little bit. That's the result of him figuring out that going to the bed, he's right there in the bed, equals getting a lot of good stuff. So that's what we call the matching law. That's the side effect that we're looking for. So I'm going to say, V, go to your bed. Good boy. So he guessed correctly. I've used go to your bed with him in the past as well. So he's going to probably do this regardless of what I say, but use your cue. Your dog may or may not respond to it. Most likely they won't in the beginning, and then you're going to follow with your small hand signal. Okay. Go to your bed. So that time he didn't respond to it, he decided to lay down. Good boy. Okay. Go to your bed. Good boy. So that's how you teach your dog to go to its bed on a verbal cue and hand signals and everything. And finally, we're going to teach leave it. Let's take a look. So the very first step of leave it that you're going to want to do with your dog is have a handful of food and allow your dog to harass your hand. Wait for your dog to give up. Once they do, you can give them a verbal marker. For instance, good boy. And then reward. Good boy. He's going to catch on very quickly. Your dog may take a little bit longer. Good boy. I like to reward from my other hand. Good boy. Because it gets him to kind of look at the other hand and makes it go a little faster. When that's going smoothly and your dog basically won't offer at it anymore, good boy, then what you're going to do is move to the next step. So I'm going to try good boy. So he's not offering at it anymore. So now what we're going to do is cue the leave it and open our hand. I'm going to ask him to leave it for 1 second. Leave it. Good boy. Leave it. Good boy. Leave it. Good boy. If he were to go after it, he's probably not going to. I'm going to try to get him to though. If he were to go after it, too bad. I would tell him too bad and I would pull it away. Too bad, just like that. So snatch it away, tell him too bad, let him know. So I'm going to go back to what I was doing. Leave it. Good boy. Leave it. Good boy. So if your dog's doing very well with that, with 1 second, we're now going to move on to 3 seconds. Leave it. Good boy. Leave it. Good boy. Same rules apply. If you went for this, I'd tell him too bad. I'd shut my hand. If he's really struggling with this step, I'm going to go back to the previous step. Leave it. Good boy. I like to go to about 3 seconds out of my hand like this. Leave it. Good boy. And if you can get about 5 of those in a row, you're ready for the next step. The next step is going to be food on the floor. I'm going to modify it just a little bit since I don't have the best camera angle. Let's pretend this is the floor. So I'm going to put this down. I'm going to say leave it. Good boy. I'm going to try to have him just leave it for 1 second. Leave it. Good boy. If I can get about 5 of these in a row, I'll make it a little bit harder. Leave it. Good boy. Once again, I'm just acting as if this is the floor. I don't have the best camera angle here. If I would put it on the floor and say, leave it, and then I would reward him. But you guys can't see that, so leave it. Good boy. If you can do about 5 of those in a row successfully, I'm going to make it harder by doing it for 3 seconds. Leave it. Good boy. Leave it. Good boy. I do expect if your dog is new to this, there are going to be some fails in here. He shouldn't fail too frequently since he's done this a lot. But if your dog does, kind of keep track of what's going on. If you get to the 3-second mark and your dog is just falling apart, go back to the previous step. Try to count, reps in your head of 5. So if my dog is doing 3 out of 5 correctly, I'm going to want to repeat it. If my dog's doing 4 out of 5 correctly, I can probably move to the next step. If my dog's doing any less than 3, so 2 or 1 out of 5, then you're going to want to drop to the previous step. Leave it. Good boy. So my next step, if my dog is doing well with 3 seconds of food on the floor, obviously this is not the floor, but with food on the floor, I'm ready to then move to my next step, which is 3 seconds of food on the floor with me standing up. So I'm going to put this down. Oops. I'm going to put this down. Leave it. Good boy. So 3 seconds and reward. Leave it. Good boy and reward. Leave it. Good boy and reward. So that's just a quick example of how to teach this. It probably won't go that quickly for a dog that has never done this before. So take your time, count your reps. First step, handful of food, let him harass it until he gives up. You're just going to do that step until he gets pretty good at it and just no longer engages. Then it's leave it and reward. And if he does go for it, so say I opened it, I'd say too bad, and shut my hand if he does go for it. Leave it, good boy. If he's doing that well, leave it, 1, 2, 3, and reward. If he's doing that well, then we go to food on the floor for just a split second. Now, if your dog really struggles, you can also come up with an in-between step. So if my dog is really struggling with 3 seconds of food on the floor, but is doing really well with 1 second food on the floor, split the difference. And now that you know how to teach all these behaviors to your dog, go ahead and give it a shot. Now remember, dogs are either getting better or they're getting worse, so you need to be continuously practicing their skills. If you already have a baby, then you can start implementing this stuff right away. If your baby is due soon, start practicing heavily. So thanks for watching, and keep your eye open for episode 3 coming out soon.